I recently did my updated ranking of the Bleach captains after the Arrancar arc, and now it's time to give my current ranking of the lieutenants. I was really looking forward to this one in particular because a lot of lieutenants that didn't get much page time before were given many more chances to shine during the fake Karakura Town battle, and for most of my ranking the first time I looked at the lieutenants, I didn't have a lot to go off of after the Soul Society arc, so yeah, expect some differences. Let's do this. In last place, I have Yamamoto's lieutenant, Chojuro. Listen, I had high hopes for this man, and I'm still hopeful. He is the right hand of the head captain, and he looks super dapper, and maybe he'll eventually turn out to be great. But as I was thinking about this list, I realized I have barely seen him. I'm like, why is that? Where has he even been? What was he doing in the battle? Because I don't remember him there, like, at all. And I looked back and found him here at the start of the battle, shoulder to shoulder with everyone else, looking ready to fight. Then he vanished. Chojuro bounced. He got far away and stayed completely out of combat, which good for him. He ended up being assigned to watching the boundary of the city, which sure, he was probably just following his orders and it's no fault of his own, but also I'll point out, he failed at that job because he let the Visored in before it was even proven that they were there to help, and then he doesn't show up until after the fight again. He completely avoided the battle entirely, even as Yamamoto was temporarily powerless and he didn't help him, and when his captain blew his own arm off, Chojuro was like, nah, I'm just gonna go back to guarding the outskirts of the city. Honestly, this is kind of amazing and hilarious to realize this, but the joy that this coward, or maybe survivalist genius, is giving me isn't enough to get him above last place. A lot of these others had more chances to shine, but definitely not Chojuro. Sorry, you can't win if you don't play the game. At number 12, I have Nanao. The most interesting thing we saw Nanao do so far was look like Lisa in a flashback, so that's to say that we really didn't see her do much, even though her captain had some great moments during the Karakura Town battle. Still, I like the relationship she has with Shunsui, and it's interesting that it kind of reflects the one he had with Lisa before she was cast out. Unfortunately, that's kind of all there is to say about Nanao. She's fine, she's proper, she has good juxtaposition with her captain, but hasn't left too much of an impression outside of that dichotomy with Shunsui, at least not yet. So she's at number 12. At number 11, I'm still waiting for Asane to do something really cool, just like I am with her captain. Her and Unohana are both just kind of low-key, but at least Unohana had the moment of apparently scaring Rudborn. Asane seems nice, she seems skilled, she seems good at her job. Back in the Soul Society arc, she let everyone know that Aizen was bad. She's still not super memorable yet to me. I'm waiting for there to be a little bit more to her. So, number 11, Asane. At number 10, I have Omaida. He was at the bottom of my first list, and now here he is at number 10, mainly because of how much fun I was having when he was given some attention, because while he's kind of obnoxious, it's mostly in a really funny and endearing way. I loved his antics during the fight with my King Baragan. Seeing this guy try to outrun essentially the Grim Reaper itself was great. The real highlight for Omaida, though, is him and Soifan's back and forth. There's just such a funny contrast between them in their designs, but also in their demeanors. Omaida doesn't seem like the type of guy that should be in like a stealth strike force, but seeing that that's kind of the point was great. Omaida's meant to be this like loud diversion, a wrecking ball of a man, and I think that's hilarious, and he's great at being that. He's great at getting the enemy's attention, running for his life, and hopefully his allies will appear and stab the enemies in the back before he's killed. I love that he's just a living, breathing distraction. At number 9, I feel so incredibly bad for Momo Hinamori. This girl has been through it, and continues to go through hell. She ended the Soul Society arc having been betrayed by someone she loved and trusted, whose death she'd been mourning like 5 seconds before that, and that's not something that's easy to get over. We saw how much it affected her and how traumatized she was, but she still showed up to try to help. She pulled herself together enough to come try to assist everyone however she could. I really respected that, even when I'm like, she really probably shouldn't be here for the sake of her own mental health. It was still a heroic moment for her, even if she was still clearly not back to being at her mental best and probably should not have even been there. She still showed up anyway. I respect it. I respect it. It's not her fault that the same person that stabbed her before set her up to get stabbed again, only this time by her childhood best friend. Poor Momo is just getting trauma on top of trauma piled onto her by Aizen, and it was rough to see that again, like so awful that it's almost comical, you know? It happened twice. But the horror of it outweighs the awkward laughs, because I really do feel so bad for her. I've got to give her some real props for even having the fortitude to come fight alongside the heroes. I do think it was maybe a missed opportunity to not show her and Aizen really reunite, but him instead just using her like he did maybe does a better job at really conveying how little he thinks of her. Like, she's not even worth the time to have a reunion, but she's worth using as a pawn again. Sorry, Momo. I know you've been through a lot, but you're not one of my favorites overall. I've got my fingers crossed that she's gonna have a big heroic moment in the future. Like, if Aizen ever comes back as a problem and someone deserves to somehow deal the finishing blow, I think it should be Momo Hinamori. At number 8, I have Iba. I almost put him lower on this list because at first I was struggling to remember if he was even around for the battle. Like, it was almost another Chojuro situation where I'm like, how much of this guy have I actually seen? But him being a former member of Squad 11 might have been enough to keep him from being in the bottom spot, because yes, I'm human and a little biased toward Kenny's squad, absolutely, even for someone that's no longer a member. That could have been enough to have him at like 11, or 10. But then I remembered his fantastic scene with Ikkaku. You all know how much I love that man, but I loved Iba tearing into him and giving him some really tough love about his habit of holding back, especially during a time when they couldn't afford for him to not give his all, Iba was absolutely right, and even though he's not Ikkaku's direct lieutenant, he knows how to get through to the people in Squad 11. It was such a fantastic scene, and while, for me, Iba didn't have any huge fighting highlights or anything, a scene like that more than made up for it for me. So yeah, number 8. At number 7, I have Kaien. I once again contemplated not putting him on the list. Last time I almost didn't because he's dead in the current story, and I was even closer to leaving him off this time since we didn't get like an extended flashback with him like we did in Memories of the Rain 2. But you know what? He's still here for a couple reasons. Firstly, it's fun to see how the list compares to last time. It was with the same people on it, Secondly, Ukitake still hasn't replaced him, but also Kaien surprisingly still played a solid role in the story despite still being dead, because Kubo tried to make me think he wasn't dead for a few pages, and he nearly tricked me. But yeah, everything with Eren Yarrow and Rukia's fight revolves around Kaien's memory and what he's left behind, both emotionally and physically, so I'm still gonna have him on this list out of respect and to make up for Eren Yarrow's desecration of his corpse. Kaien was great, and he is missed. If this is the last time he's on one of these lists, I think he's in a solid position, considering he's literally been dead the whole series. He was a good character. At number 6, I have Yashiru. Maybe it's my Kenny bias again, but I find her to be a really interesting character. She leaves a big impression for someone that's so small, and that really hasn't had her own moment to shine just yet. She's kind of still just Kenny's shoulder monkey that's accompanying him and sticking by him, and the Arrancar arc didn't do anything to make her much more than that. There's just something about her, though, that has me invested in what happens to her, because I need to know why a bubbly, cheerful girl and a bloodthirsty lunatic like Kenny have remained such good pals. While we've seen Kenpachi fight plenty of times, and he loves it, we have yet to see Yashiru pick up a sword and fight alongside him. That would be a hell of an image, and I really hope it happens someday. At number 5, I have Nemu, who remains fascinating even when she still hasn't been given much focus, or really a full explanation of what she is. I'm just so curious about her being a creation of Mayuri rather than like a natural Soul Reaper because of the implications of that. Like, the man created legit life. He created a soul that has the powers of a Soul Reaper, that can be a lieutenant, and no one bats an eye. I also had a theory about her that I went into once in much more detail, but yeah, I still think she's part Quincy, and that Mayuri developed her based on all of his awful experiments on them. But that's just what I like to think. Who knows if it's true? You guys probably do. I feel bad for her and how she's treated, but mostly I'm just intrigued by her. I want to know what her deal is, and I hope someday she gets a little bit of retribution against Mayuri for his terrible treatment of her. At number 4, Izuru. Okay, straight up, Izuru conducted one of the coldest executions in the series so far. Simple as that. Number 3, no, I'm just kidding, but he really had his moments to shine protecting the pillar. I've mentioned before that I wish we got an actual reunion between him and Gin, but Gin had a lot of things he needed to kind of be in place for, so I get Kubo not wanting to draw too much attention to Gin like that. It's just a bit of a shame that Izuru is really the only colleague of the traitors that didn't get some kind of direct interaction. I guess Momo technically didn't either, but she was kind of pivotal to Aizen's battle tactics at least, even, if she didn't realize it. Still, with what we did see, Izuru really impressed me. He was badass, and he was making up for siding with the wrong people in the previous arc. I really like him now. I think he's a great character. Still really cool powers, and like I said, what a badass way to beat his opponent. Number 3, poor Rangiku. She may have gone down a spot, but I still really like her a lot, and she had some fantastic moments in this arc. From the hijinks of her being in the living world, to the times when we got to see her really fight, and of course learning more about her relationship with Gin, and where that led in the end. She's been put through the ringer, but she's shown time and time again to be someone with a lot of resolve. And it was interesting to learn that Aizen's men seem to have taken part of her soul long ago, so I'm curious if that fact will ever come back around in like a meaningful way, outside of it leading to her meeting Gin, which was actually a pretty defining point in her life. Good character, and I liked learning more about her. At number 2, Renji, who may not have gotten the focus or the character development that he got in the Soul Society arc, but he still was consistently enjoyable, and I liked him firmly kind of being part of the core group of heroes now. I really enjoyed him getting to go with Rukia to Eiko Mundo, despite going against the Soul Society's orders at the time. It just helped to reinforce the lessons he's learned from Ichigo in the previous arc, and him fighting alongside Uryu was a great dynamic as well. At number 1, Hisagi. Come on. This guy was awesome during the battle. He always looked cool, but now I got to see him really back that up, and it was amazing. His whole Scythe Grim Reaper thing he has going for him just complements how cool he is, and I loved his fight against the Arrancar in the anime especially. Then he also shined when he dealt the finishing blow to his former captain, when he shanked Tozen in an extremely memorable moment. Plus, we got a little more of his backstory and the connection he has to Kensei from the Visored. I don't know, Hisagi's the coolest lieutenant for me currently, usurping Renji. Renji may be more of a main character, but Hisagi's moments in the battle launched him over Renji in my mind when it comes to lieutenants. On just pure style, pure coolness, pure enjoyability when he's on the page and on the screen. So Hisagi is number 1. Okay. Hold up. When I first started writing down my ranking and my thoughts and getting all of this together, I hadn't reached the point in Bleach that I'm at now as of the time of this recording, so there's a new challenger to this lieutenant ranking video, and that's Rukia Kuchiki, who's actually gonna jump right onto the number 1 spot above everyone else, because how could she not? It's Rukia. She's one of the best characters in the series, and seeing that she's been promoted to a lieutenant is just so earned and so wonderful and something I've wanted for a while. And while I haven't seen much of her in the role yet, I'm sorry, but I cannot put her any lower than number 1. She's easily the best character on this list, and I'm just so happy for her that she's finally getting her due. You know, I'm so happy for Rukia. I'm excited to see what she's like in more of a leadership position. Given how well she guided Ichigo, I'm sure she'll do great. And that's it. That's the lieutenant ranking updated as of now, the end of the Fullbringer arc. It's been fun chatting about some of these Soul Reapers again, since it's kind of filling the void that most of these characters weren't around in the Lost Agent arc until like very, very, very recently. So yeah, that's the update. We'll see where these people stand at the end of the series, I guess. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please comment, like, subscribe, become a channel member if you want. I'm launching a Patreon, so if there's links on my channel by the time you're seeing this, please join the Patreon if you'd like. I'm planning to do manga read-alongs, anime episode reactions, so go there if you'd like. Yeah, thanks so much for the support and for watching, and I'll see you guys all very soon. Take care.